Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Dimmy V Gaming. So today I was thinking about showing you guys my Final Fantasy collection. I've been a diehard Final Fantasy collector and player for many years now, and I really love the games. So yeah, I've picked up quite a few games over the years, so let's have a look. I don't really know what to start with. There's so many stuff here. Let's just see. Maybe start off with some PC stuff. So for the PC I have the first try of Final Fantasy XIV Online. I still remember that this game flopped. I don't know what was wrong with it. It just wasn't playable at all. So they had to remake the entire game. So they remade the entire game, and eventually they came up with Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. And my god, this is a really great game. It's still being played to this day. Of course, I had to buy myself the collector's edition because that's just me. And then I also have two versions of Final Fantasy XI Online. I think it is still being played, I'm not really sure. Got this one. It includes two bonus expansion packs. And then, of course, I also got myself the collector's edition. And my god, I really love this box. Just look at the art. That's one thing Final Fantasy always has going, man. Their artwork is just sublime. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the PC stuff. Then maybe some other collectibles before I start off with the games. What do we have? So I got the CD with the original soundtracks from Final Fantasy X. Then some movies. Final Fantasy Spirits Within on VHS. I just saw this lying in a thrift store someday, and I just had to take it with me. Final Fantasy Advent Children single disc edition. Really love this movie. If you haven't seen it already, go check it out. Then, as I'm a collector, I also got myself Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, but the Steelbook edition. Look how shiny it is. Shiny. Then also Final Fantasy Spirits Within Steelbook edition. And on Blu-ray a triple pack with Spirits Within, Advent Children, and King's Glaive, the movie that came before Final Fantasy 15. So if you haven't seen that one, be sure to go check it out before you play Final Fantasy 15, because it gives you a lot of backstory behind all the characters. It's really interesting and really cool to see. I got two little figurines that I made, I think a year ago or something, with perler beads. So we got the white mage and the black mage. I really love this kind of stuff, I don't know why. Then something I picked up at a convention one day, several years ago already. It's a little collector's thingy from Final Fantasy VIII, as you can see, Squall and Rinoa. And what did it have inside again? Oh yeah, okay, so it had a miniature version of the Gunblade, Squall's ring, and I'm gonna leave this in the plastic, but it also has a chain with the lion heart on it. So yeah, I thought that was a fun little thing to have in my collection. Didn't cost me much, I think, €8 I think, so yeah, why not? Then, on to some figurines. I don't have a lot of figurines because that shit's expensive as fuck, but I got some through people I know. I got Sephiroth. I got this one from my neighbor actually when he got rid of his Final Fantasy collection. It does also come with his sword, but it broke, unfortunately, so I can't really make him hold it, but it still looks cool. Then Cloud holding his Buster Sword. I mean, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, you have to have Cloud. Cloud's motorcycle. And then some figurines I showed a few episodes ago, actually, in one of my pickups videos. Tidus, or Tidus, whatever you pronounce it. Hope from Final Fantasy XIII. And Zack. Then on to some games. So I got myself two Japanese Super Famicom games here, just for the sake of collecting them. Of course, I don't have a Super Famicom, so I can't play them. But I mean, just having Japanese boxes from games that you love, I think it's amazing. They are truly a lot more beautiful than the games you have out here. So I got myself Final Fantasy IV, Japanese version. And I also got myself Final Fantasy V. Just look at that. How awesome is that? So speaking of Japanese games, I also got myself this nice nice collectible Final Fantasy I Wonder Swan Color. The Wonder Swan is actually a handheld that came out in Japan to compete with well, they had the Wonder Swan before, the Wonder Swan Color, and that one came out to compete with the Game Boy Color, and after that they made the Wonder Swan Color, and that was made to compete with the Game Boy Advance, I think. That was around 1999 and 2000. It had a small success, but of course it had to compete with Nintendo, and Nintendo was king, so never really got the chance to grow. But yeah, I think this is amazing to have. I got it from a collector who just decided to get rid of it, so I jumped on that, so I had to buy it. So yeah, won this one. Then for Xbox 360 games that will probably never see the inside of my console, Final Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy 11. I mean on Xbox 360, and Final Fantasy 13. But I also have this one on PlayStation. I'm a lot more likely to play these games on my PlayStation, so yeah. But yeah, I saw them lying around for a cheap price, so I just had to buy them. Then my PSP games for the my Final Fantasy collection. Final Fantasy 1. This is actually a very, very beautiful remake of the original Final Fantasy on the NES. They completely remastered it and it really looks beautiful. Same with Final Fantasy 2. Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions. I've never actually played this one before. I think it's a tactical grid kind of game. Unfortunately, it's a PSP Essentials collection. I would have preferred the original one, but hey, can't complain. I've not really seen the original version around a lot anymore. Crisis Core Final Fantasy 7 with Zack, the one I showed you before in on my figurines. Final Fantasy Dissidia Collector's Edition. I think that's Collector's Edition. Limited Collector's Edition. So this is actually for those of you that do not know this game, this is actually a fighting game with all kinds of heroes from across all the Final Fantasy games, and you can make them fight each other. There's also one coming out, I think next year for the PlayStation 4. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. Then a successor to the Dissidia game, Final Fantasy Dissidia Duodecim. Another Final Fantasy Crisis Core. Apparently, I have two. I have the Platinum version and the original version, just because I can. And also Final Fantasy 4 Complete Collector's Edition. Complete Collection, I mean. So this includes the Final Fantasy 4 game and a game called The After Years, but I haven't really played that one. So if any of you have, let me know how it is. So that's it for the PlayStation Portable games. On to some PlayStation 1 games. Oh, I actually forgot to show this one. I also had Final Fantasy 8 on the PC version. So I got Final Fantasy Origins. This is a duo package with Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2 in it. Final Fantasy Anthology, same as before. It is a duo package with Final Fantasy 4 and Final Fantasy 5. Then Final Fantasy 6, one of my favorites, also known as Final Fantasy 3 in Japan. Really play this game, guys. It's awesome. The story is just amazing. The music is awesome. Must play. Final Fantasy 7, pretty iconic for me. It's probably the first Final Fantasy I ever played on my own console, the PlayStation 1. I actually didn't own it before. I bought it. I borrowed it from my neighbor, and took a while before I gave it back because this game is just so awesome, man, on so many levels. First attempt at 3D Final Fantasy, and they just nailed it, man. I mean, the story is just so amazing. I at least once a year I want to play this game again, so if you don't have it, buy it. Final Fantasy 8, of course, gotta have this game in your collection as well. Kinda like the game, it was completely different actually, especially with their junction system they had going on. I never really got into that. Yeah, but overall, pretty great story. Final Fantasy 9, I think after Final Fantasy 7 being my favorite, this is my second favorite. I just love the feel of this game. It has this kind of medieval atmosphere. Yeah, I think it feels more like a fairy tale, and I really like how they made it. Just don't know where that end boss came from. I mean, they have a whole story going on leading up to one final boss, and then another one just shows up just like that. Never heard of that guy before, and I think that was pretty weird. But overall, hey, great game. And then just because I can, I also have some Japanese PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy games, being Chocobo Racing. I don't actually have this one in the European version, so that's stupid, but okay. Chocobo Racing, and the three iconic games Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9, also Japanese versions. Just saw them lying around in a convention one day, and I just snagged those immediately. So yeah, that's it for the PlayStation 1 games. On to PlayStation 2. And I think I pretty much have all the Final Fantasy games that came out on PlayStation 2. At least I think so. If you know of a game that came out on the PlayStation 2 from Final Fantasy that I don't have, tell me. Of course, Final Fantasy X with Titus, whatever. I think this was actually the first game that I ever bought when I got my PlayStation 2, and I didn't even have a memory card, so I just kept on playing the first hours over and over again until I could afford myself a memory card. So yeah, that beginning of the game, I just nailed that. Really an awesome game, guys. Then Final Fantasy X-2. This game is actually played with Yuna and Riku and Pain, I think it was. It's a really girly game, but they have a whole job system implemented, and I think that was pretty awesome. Then Final Fantasy XII. I never actually finished this one on the PlayStation 2. I don't know why. I think I had around level 40 or something. I just gave up. I think the story couldn't really appeal to me. But just recently I played it on the PlayStation 4, the Zodiac Age, and I completed that one. So actually it's a pretty good game, but I'm still not that convinced of the story. It's a little bit too much politics for my fancy, but hey, to each his own. Final Fantasy VII, Dirge of Cerberus, where you play, it's kind of a run and gun shooter kind of game, but with Vincent Valentine from Final Fantasy VII. Then I also got for the Wii, Final Fantasy Crystal Bearers. Never played it. Is it any good? Final Fantasy Fables, Chocobo's Dungeon. And for the GameCube, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Then on to PlayStation 3, I got myself the Final Fantasy X-2 collection. Just because I could. I have the original ones, but as a collector I just had to have these. Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn on PlayStation 3. I actually played this one first before I got myself the PC version, but I just can't play this kind of game on a console. The movements are just too restricted for me. The camera movements are too slow. Yeah, for this kind of game, PC is the way to go, in my opinion. And then of course I got myself the infamous game Final Fantasy XIII. This is a limited collector's edition. Not really much to say about this game actually. I didn't finish it. Couldn't finish it. I mean, I don't think it's a bad game per se, but it just doesn't feel Final Fantasy anymore. It's too linear. It's just boring and dull. So I just quit. I can't help myself. I really want to finish it one day, but now is not that time. Yeah, and of course, because I have Final Fantasy 13, I also got myself Final Fantasy 13-2 and 13-3 Lightning Returns. I never finished any of these games. I don't want to play them until I have finished 13. I think I heard that these are a little better than the first one, so yeah, I'm just gonna have to bear through the first one first, so I can play these. And not everybody has the same taste, of course, but if you're used to the older Final Fantasies and then you play this, but one day I'm surely gonna try them. And then for the PlayStation 4, Final Fantasy 15 Special Edition. I wanted to get myself the Collector's Edition, but it was expensive as fuck. I just couldn't afford it. I couldn't justify buying something like that here at home, so got myself the Special Edition. Finished the game, great game actually, but like with 13, it's just not really Final Fantasy to me anymore. I mean, they have the elements in it, the summons, the chocobos, lots of known weapons from older games. Yeah, it's really a great game, but yeah, with the whole action-based system now instead of turn-based, I really want to go back to turn-based, but yeah, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Same with the Final Fantasy remake they're doing. It's going to be action-based, so I don't think we can change a lot about it. But it's definitely a good game, but I hate that they constantly bring out new DLC for it. I mean, I've played the game, I finished the game, and that should be it. I don't want them to bring more DLC into it, so I have to keep returning after not playing for months and then suddenly do some extra stuff. All the episodes with Gladiolus and Prompto, and I just don't want to bother with that anymore. I already spent 100 hours on this game. That's enough. That's enough. Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. Never played this one before. I think you're all students of a school that have special abilities. Don't really know the story for it, but yeah, some people like it, some people don't. I think it's a remaster or remake from a PSP game. Not sure if it came out in Europe. If you know, let me know. Then yet again, I bought myself the X and X2 compilation on PlayStation 4 this time. Enhanced graphics, why not? Had to have it. World of Final Fantasy, complete different kind of story. But yeah, I really liked it. I especially liked the stacking system that they used in the fights. It's something completely new. It worked really well actually. Not bad, not bad at all. Finished it last year, I think. Yeah, so really great game actually. And you can use characters from other Final Fantasy games as summons or stuff like that, so that's pretty cool actually. And then the limited steelbook edition for Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac Age. So this one, like I said, I finished. Wasn't too bad. It looked pretty good. I like that they put a speed enhancer in it, so you can grind a lot more easily. So it wouldn't take up that much time. So yeah, that's it for PlayStation 4. Then I also have some handheld games, of course. We're getting to the end, guys, sorry. First, some loose cartridges. I have two kinds of Final Fantasy 6 on the Game Boy Advance. One of them is fake. Can you guess which one? And also Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Then on to some Nintendo DS. Final Fantasy 12 Revenant Wings. This is actually an American version. I think I also found this on a convention, not really sure anymore. Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Ring of Fates, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Echoes of Time, Chocobo Tales, and Final Fantasy The Four Heroes of Light. I actually had to buy this one a second time because I knew I had it when I lived in my apartment before, but for some reason it just vanished. I have no idea where it went. So and afterwards I heard this game was going a lot of money because it's not that common anymore. But I managed to find one for a pretty cheap price again. Don't know where I bought it from anymore, but yeah, got that one. And last but not least, we are closing in on the end. I got myself 3 Nintendo 3DS games. Final Fantasy Explorers. Not played this one, unfortunately. Final Fantasy Theatrhythm. This game is always hell to pronounce. Yeah, so it's a rhythmic kind of game where you just have to tap on the beat of Final Fantasy soundtracks, and it's actually a lot more addictive than you would think. And last game, Final Fantasy Theatrhythm Curtain Call. So not really sure about this one anymore. I think it has more soundtracks in it. It actually has 221 tracks, so yeah. So what else can I say about this collection? Yeah, so actually I would like a lot more games, especially the older ones like on the NES and SNES, but they're really expensive. So yeah, it's always choices, man. I really would like them. Also the ones on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, I think. Also Game Boy Advance. There's some pretty cool games in there as well, but they're as expensive as fuck. I think they're not going for less than 50 or 60 euros. So if I run them all, it's gonna cost me a lot. But I'm just waiting my time. Maybe I'm gonna find them for cheap. So yeah. Okay, so that's it for my Final Fantasy collection. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked this video, please remember to like and or subscribe, especially subscribe. And if you subscribe, be sure to press that little bell button in the corner so you get notified whenever I make a video. So, thank you very much for watching, guys, and until the next time, cheers!